Hello everyone, welcome to the tutorial video on how to crochet this cute duck. In this video, I will be going over all of the supplies that we need in order to create this duck, and then I will be showing you step by step how we make it. So the first thing I would like to go over is our crochet hook. Crochet hooks come in a variety of different sizes. This one is a 4mm crochet hook. This is essential in creating any crochet project, whether you're making cute little plushies, a scarf, a jacket, anything at all, you are going to need a crochet hook. Usually, crochet hook size depends on what kind of yarn you are using with the crochet hook. Since we are using a medium weight yarn, a 4mm crochet hook is best suited for this project. To hold your crochet hook, I hold it using the pencil method, which means that I hold my crochet hook almost like I would hold a pencil. So I know that a lot of people hold pencils like this. Mine is almost like the reverse of that. So I put my thumb where that 4mm indicator is. Most crochet hooks have a place where you are to rest your thumb. And then I let it rest in these two fingers and guide it with my pointer finger and thumb. So just to show you how it is in action, I hold it like this. So my pinky wraps around the bottom of it. My ring finger also wraps around the bottom of it. And my thumb rests on the number indicating the size of the hook. And my pointer finger clamps near my thumb. My middle finger kind of acts as a guide. And then that is how I hold it. The next thing we will be going over is our stitch marker. Crochet is made up of stitches, and this marker helps us keep track of those stitches. The project that we're working on is made up of rounds. You can see that this is round 1, this circle, and this is our complete set of stitches in round 1. This is round 2, the second circle, and this is our second set of stitches. This is round 3, our third set of stitches, and so forth. The stitch marker is placed in the first stitch of each round. This way, we know that by the time we get to this round, after we've made all of these stitches, we have completed one full round. So the stitch marker goes in the first stitch of each round. The next thing we have is our sewing needle, or a yarn needle. This actually has quite a larger mouth than a regular sewing needle, as it is made for yarn. We typically do finer details with this, such as the beak, and we do it by going in between the stitches and pulling it up. But I will show you that later once we finish our plushie. But that is what this tool is for. We also use it to close off the plushie when we get to the last round and we sew it up. So this is important for those finer details. Another thing we might need are scissors, and these are just to cut the yarn once we are done with our project. The next thing we will need are safety eyes. Safety eyes come in a variety of different sizes and different colors. If you Google safety eyes, you can find so many different options. For this duck, I will be using these black ones. We will be needing those safety eyes and the backers for the safety eyes, which look like this. They are little round backers, and they keep the safety eyes in place. We'll be putting the safety eyes through a stitch and then closing it with this backer so that the stitch kind of holds it in place. I'll show you on this little example right here. So typically with safety eyes, you put it in between a stitch, so right there, and then you'll clamp it with the backing so your eye stays secure. But we won't need to worry about that until we finish our duck. It is one of the last steps that we do, is adding these eyes. You will also need a little bit of polyfill stuffing. You can get polyfill stuffing at a variety of stores. They usually come in little bags or huge boxes. You can buy a 12-ounce bag or you can buy a 20-pound box. You will not need 20 pounds for this project. You will only need just a little bit of stuffing, probably a handful of stuffing. Last but certainly not least, we will be using yarn. For our duck, I recommend using yellow yarn, white yarn, or any sort of yarn that would make a cute little chick. I got this yarn at Dollar Tree, and this is actually a perfect yarn for this project. Yarn, just like the crochet hook, comes in different sizes. This size yarn is somewhat a medium weight. It is not very thick, but it is not as thin as standard yarn. You will want a complementary color, so I have chose orange as my complementary color for the beak and for the feet. So my duck will be yellow and orange. Those are all of the supplies we will need to complete this duck. Alright, before we start our single crochets and our rounds, I want to show you how I am holding both the hook and the yarn. I hold my yarn primarily with the pointer finger of my left hand. So I go under the yarn with my left hand and kind of wrap it around my pointer finger. So I almost make a hook with my pointer finger of my left hand. Then I take the rest of the yarn that is closest to the hook, kind of where this knot is. See this knot? And I pinch that with my middle finger and my thumb of my left hand. So in doing that, I have this straight piece of yarn. That is how I hold the yarn. I showed you how I hold my hook, but I'll show you again. I rest my thumb upon the number, or this rest. You can even see that it's built a little differently than the rest of the hook. So I rest my thumb and my pointer finger there. I pinch it, and I let all my other fingers kind of act as a guide, holding the lower part of the hook. So this is the position you want your right hand to be in, and this is the position you want your left hand to be in. It is vital that you hold this knot with your thumb in your middle finger, and you hold the rest of the yarn with your pointer finger like this. All right, we are ready to start crocheting. So I'm going to go underneath this yarn right here. So I'm not going this way, I'm not going on top. Don't go on top. Go underneath the yarn with your hook, like this. So one more time, I'm going underneath this yarn with my hook. And then I'm hooking the yarn and I'm pulling it through this loop that we made. You're going to do that twice. So that was once. That was twice. And now you have 2 chains on your hook. Here is chain 1 and here is chain 2. So you have 2 chains and then this part where the yarn is attached to your hook. In this first chain, so the very first chain that you made, you are going to insert your hook. So insert your hook into that first chain. And then go underneath the yarn and pull it through that first chain. You should have 2 loops on your hook. We are going to be making our very first single crochet. So with those 2 loops on your hook, you're going to go underneath the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. That is 1 single crochet. All right. Make sure you don't lose this hole that we just placed that first single crochet into. This hole right here is where we were going to be placing all of our single crochets. We are going to make a total of 8 of these single crochets into this hole. So it's important that you do not lose this hole space. So into that hole, which is our first chain, we're going to insert the hook again and pull up a loop. So grab the yarn, pull it through that hole, pull up a loop. You will now have 2 loops on your hook. Pull through those 2 loops with the yarn. So that's our second single crochet. You can see these forming. You can see 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet. We're going to do this a total of 8 times. So into that hole, which was our first chain, we're going to insert our hook. Then we're going to go underneath the yarn, pull it through that hole, and pull up a loop so that there are 2 loops on our hook. Then we're going to go underneath the yarn again and pull the yarn through those 2 loops. That is our 3rd single crochet. I will be showing this for every single crochet that we do into this hole. So I'll be showing this a total of 8 times, just so we can fully understand this process. The entire plushie that we are making is made up of these single crochets. What we are doing right now is we are forming the top of the head. You can see that we've done this area right here is what we are doing right now. So, once again, hold the yarn with your middle finger and your thumb right here at that hole that we're going to go into. Make sure your pointer finger is wrapped around the rest of the yarn and pulls it tight. Go into that hole with your hook. Then go underneath the yarn that your pointer finger is holding. Wrap it around the hook and pull it through that hole so you have 2 loops on your hook. Go underneath the yarn again, wrap the yarn around your hook, and pull it through those 2 loops. We now have a total of 4 single crochets. Go into that hole once again with our hook, go underneath the yarn, wrap it around your hook, and pull it through that hole. You now have 2 loops on your hook. You are going to go underneath the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. So that's a total of 5. We're going to go back into that hole with our yarn, or with our hook, with our hook. Pull the yarn through that hole. So we have 2 loops on our hook. Go underneath the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. So that's a total of 6. It gets easier to hold the more single crochets we do, because now I'm not holding a knot anymore with my thumb and my middle finger. I'm kind of holding the single crochets, so it's a lot easier to hold now. So we'll continue into that hole. So put your hook into that hole, go underneath the yarn, pull the yarn through that hole. You will now have 2 loops on your hook. Go underneath the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. So you could see here's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet, 4 single crochet, 5 single crochet, 6 single crochet, and 7 single crochet. We have a total of 7 single crochets that we've done into this hole. We need 1 more. So go into that hole with your hook, go underneath the yarn, pull the yarn through that hole. You have 2 loops on your hook. Go underneath the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. You have a total of 8 single crochets now. And this is the top of the duck. So you have made the top of the duck's head. So the top of your duck's head is 8 single crochets into this magic ring or hole, into this hole right here. Some people call it a magic circle, some people call it a magic ring. It's just a hole that you put your stitches into. And I will be showing you how to do a slip stitch into our very first single crochet that we did into this hole. And to do that, you're going to look at the side of your yarn and find out where that first stitch is. So look to this side, and I see that there are 2, there's like this little V right here. I'll show you. There's this little V right here. You can barely see it, but here's the back loop and here's the front loop of those 2 loops that were on our hook. That is my first single crochet. So my first single crochet that I did into this hole is right there. I'm going to insert my hook into that space. So I'm going to insert my hook into that first single crochet that we did into this hole. So I'm inserting my hook into there. Then I'm going underneath the yarn and I'm pulling it through. I now have 2 loops on my hook, but I'm going to not go under and get more yarn like we have been. I'm not going to do that because this technique is going to be different. This is going to be a slip stitch. So instead, I'm going to take this second loop that is already on our hook and pull it through the first loop. Just like that. That is a slip stitch. So we now have a completed circle and it is secure. This is our first round. This is the very top of the duck's head. All right, we are going to start our second round now that we are done with round 1. In round 1, we made a total of 8 single crochets into that circle. We are no longer going to be working into that circle, but working into the stitches that we made in round 1. If you look closely, you can see the 8 stitches all around. We are going to want to find the first stitch that we made, which will be the stitch that is closest to the hook. So if you turn your work sideways, you can kind of see these 2 loops. They look like a little V. Each one of these is these 2 loops that were on our hook that we pulled through in round 1. So you are going to find the one that is closest to your hook. It may be a little hard to see, so one thing that I like to do in order to see it more clearly is to grab my needle and poke it through. So I can see that this is the first one. We are going to be making 2 single crochets into this stitch. This is known as an increase stitch. So you're going to insert your hook into that first stitch, grab your yarn, and pull it through that stitch. You will have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to grab the yarn and pull it through those 2 loops. Now you're going to do another single crochet into that same stitch. So we did 1, which is our very first stitch. We're going to do a second one. So insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Pull through those 2 loops. So now we have our increase stitch. This is the first stitch of our second round. This is the second stitch of our second round. So this is where our stitch marker comes in handy. I'm going to place my stitch marker in the first stitch of the second round, which is right here. It was the first stitch that we made into this stitch. I'm going to put it underneath those 2 loops. So you can see it right here. Put it underneath the 2 loops, and I'm going to close it and clip it shut. So here's stitch 1 of our second round, and here is stitch 2 of our second round. We are going to find stitch 2 of our first round, which is right here, and we are going to make another increase. And again, to make an increase stitch, you are making 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So, insert your hook into that second stitch of the first round, grab the yarn, pull it through. You have 2 loops on your hook, pull through those 2 loops. All right, that's 1 single crochet. We want a total of 2 in each stitch. So we need to do it one more time into the same stitch. So insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through, grab the yarn, and pull it through those 2 loops. So now you can see, just like this first increase that we did, which is 1 stitch, 2 stitch, there's now 3 stitch, 4 stitch. So since we had a total of 8 single crochets in our first round, and we're increasing in this round, we're basically multiplying it by 2. So it's very neat that math comes in when we are crocheting plushies. We are going to have a total of 16 single crochets by the end of this round, since we are increasing 8 times. So find the third stitch of the first round, which is right here, and increase into that stitch. And remember, an increased stitch is 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, grab the yarn, and pull through those 2 loops. In the same stitch, so the one that you just did that into, you're going to do the same exact thing. So insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops. So that was our third increase. So we should have a total of 6 single crochets in the second round. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I know that I'm on track. I'm going to find the 4th stitch of the first round. So it's this next stitch right here. I'm going to make an increase stitch as I have been in all of these stitches. So I'm going to insert my hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, pull the yarn through those 2 loops. In that same stitch, I'm going to insert my hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, pull through 2 loops. So now I should have a total of 8 single crochets in this second round, since we have increased 4 times. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. We're going to continue to do this until the end of the round, which is where we placed our stitch marker. So we need to do this 4 more times for a total of 8 increases, which will bring our single crochet number up to 16. If this is somewhat confusing, it is a little bit because it is math. And math is involved in making all of these plushies, which I think is very neat. All right, we're halfway through this second round. So insert your hook into the next stitch, which is the 5th stitch of our first round. Grab the yarn, pull it through that stitch. You have 2 loops on your hook. Grab the yarn, pull it through those 2 loops. That's 1 single crochet. We need to do it twice because this is an increase stitch. So go into that 5th stitch again of the first round, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through 2 loops. So that was our 5th increase. We needed to make a total of 8 increases. So find the 6th stitch of the first round, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Go into that same 6th stitch, insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, grab the yarn, pull through those 2 loops. That was our 6th increase. We need our 7th increase and our 8th increase. So go into the next stitch, which should be the 7th stitch of the first round. Insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. Grab the yarn, pull through those 2 loops. And remember, that was only 1 single crochet. We want a total of 2 single crochets in each of these stitches. So I need to do that again. I insert my hook, I grab the yarn, I pull up a loop, and I pull through these 2 loops. So we need 1 more increase. So a total of 8 increases. And this is our final one, so find the next stitch, which might be a little difficult. I'm going to use my needle to help me better identify this stitch. I can see those 2 loops, so I'm going to put my needle in there to better identify it and make my final increase of this round. So I'm going to insert my hook underneath those 2 loops and make my final increase. And again, just to repeat, an increase is 2 single crochets into the same stitch. So I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it through my 8th and final stitch. I have 1, 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it through those 2 loops. I'm going to do that one last and final time. So I'm inserting my hook into the 8th stitch. I'm yarning over. I'm pulling the yarn through that stitch. I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm grabbing the yarn and I'm pulling through those 2 loops. At this point, we should have a total of 16 single crochets in this round. So I'm going to count mine and make sure that I have 16 single crochets. So Here is 1. Here's 2. Here's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16, which should have our stitch marker in it. Good job! That was round 2. Alright, we are now at round 3. And to start round 3, we're going to go into that stitch that has the stitch marker into it. So, insert your hook into the stitch that the stitch marker is in. Might be a little hard to see. Then grab the yarn, pull it through, and pull through those 2 loops. So there's our first stitch of our 3rd round. We are going to remove the stitch marker and place it in to our first stitch of our 3rd round. So the stitch that we just made, we're going to place our stitch marker into that stitch. For round 3, it's very easy. We're just going to be making a total of 16 single crochets until we reach the stitch marker. So this is number 1. So we need 15 more. So find the next stitch, which is right here. Again, if you have any trouble identifying where the next stitch is, just look for those 2 loops. I can see it very clearly right here. This is our next stitch, the one after that, the one after that, and so forth. So, into this next stitch, which is stitch 2 of our 2nd round, you're going to insert the hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. You have 2 loops on your hook, pull through those 2 loops. We are not increasing at all in this round. Instead, we are moving to each stitch of the last round, so 16 total, and just crocheting 1 stitch into each of those stitches. So this is my first stitch of round 3, my second stitch of round 3. I want a total of 16 stitches in round 3. So I'm going to move on to the 3rd stitch of round 3, insert my hook, grab the yarn, pull up a loop, grab the yarn, and pull through those 2 loops. So you could count if you're worried about not having the right amount of stitches. You could count each time. So 1, 2, 3. I'm on track. I need stitch number 4. So I just find it. I insert my hook. I pull the yarn through. 2 loops on my hook. Pull the yarn through. So this is actually shaping this part of the duck right here. I'm going to try to show you as we go along. But you can see this was round 1. So this is round 1. This is round 2. This was round 2. We are making round 3, which is right here where the duck actually starts to go form its body. So this is round 3, this will be round 4, this will be round 5, and so forth. So let's continue with our round 3. We're going to find the next stitch. So we've done 4 so far, so we need stitch number 5. We're going to insert a hook underneath those 2 loops, pull the yarn through, and pull the yarn through those 2 loops. So that's number 5. Number 6. We want number 7. And number 8. All right. So if we have done 8 single crochets, which is what we should have, so let's count them to make sure that I'm on track. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, the one that my stitch marker's in. We are halfway done with round 3, which is great because we want a total of 16 stitches, 16 single crochets in round 3. So I'm going to do single crochet number 9. find the next stitch, single crochet number 10, find the next stitch, which will be single crochet number 11, and so forth. Remember, you will want a total of 16 single crochets in round 3. So by the time you get to this stitch marker, you should have a total of 16. So I have one more stitch to go, and I'm going to count my stitches to make sure that I'm on track. If you feel like you're getting lost, I recommend counting your stitches. And to count your stitches, you can turn it sideways and find those 2 loops and go underneath them. So that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, that's 7, that's 8, that's 9, that's 10, that's 11, that's 12, that's 13, that's 14, and that's 15 that I just did. So I need one more for a total of 16 single crochets in round 3. All right, I have 16 single crochets in round 3. And as you can see, our project can be now bent one way or the other. We want to bend it so that this tail portion is facing down. So bend it like that. That's the inside of our duck. So once we get to the end, it'll be, we will sew this off. So this is the top of our duck. In fact, I could even put it on this duck and you can see that this is the top of our duck. So make sure that you start to curve it, that this yarn tail is on the inside. All right, we will get started with round 4. And round 4 is very similar to round 3. It is the exact same thing, but just round 4. We are going to be doing a total of 16 single crochets in round 4. So you are basically repeating what we just did. So into the stitch that has the stitch marker, you're going to insert your hook, pull up a loop, and pull through those 2 loops, so 1 single crochet. You're going to take out your hook and place it into that single crochet that we just did. And this marks our first stitch of round 4. So remember, in round 4, just like round 3, we want a total of 16 single crochets. So that was my first single crochet. I need 15 more. And I'm going to continue. So this will be my second one, my third one, my fourth one, my fifth one, my sixth one, all around. Amigurumi, which is the term for crochet plushies, is always worked in rounds, or most commonly worked in these rounds. So since we are on round 4, we just continue with our single crochets till we reach the end of the round. And the end of the round is indicated and marked by our stitch marker. That is why the stitch marker is so vital and important, is that if you lose track of your stitches, you know that by the this marks the end of the round. So if I can't remember, like, let's say I can't remember what stitch, if I did 4 stitches or 5 stitches or whatever, I just can't remember what stitch I'm on, I know that I don't have to worry. I just have to reach the end of this row. I have to make stitches all the way until I get to here. Because by the time I get to here, I'll know that I have made a total of 16 single crochets. Be careful not to do an increase in this round. You want to make sure that you're only doing single crochets, which is just 1 stitch into each of these stitches. In round 2, we did 2 single crochets into 1 stitch, which is an increase. We don't want any increases in this round. We just want single crochets. So I'm going to move on to the next stitch, which is right here. and I'm going to continue around until I reach that stitch marker. So we want a total of 16 single crochets in round 4. So you're basically just inserting your hook into each stitch of round 3 and making 1 single crochet into each of those stitches. All right, perfect. So let's count our rounds. This is round 1. You can see this is the circle where we did our 8 single crochets. This is round 2. You can see this is the circle where we did our increases. This is round 3, where we single crocheted 16 times. And this is round 4, where we single crocheted 16 times again. All right, for round 5, we were going to do 4 single crochets, and then we were going to make the wing. So I will go a little slower at this part. I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch that has that stitch marker, make 1 single crochet, and transfer my stitch marker into that single crochet that I just made. This is the first stitch of round 5. So there's 1. I'm going to move on to the next stitch, which is right here. Going to insert my hook, grab the yarn, pull it through, and make this single crochet. So now I have 2 single crochets in round 5. I want a total of 4. So I'm going to move on to the next one, the next stitch. Grab the yarn, make a single crochet. That is our 3rd stitch, our 3rd single crochet of round 5. And here is our 4th single crochet of round 5. We're making our 4th single crochet of round 5 right now. There we go. So from the stitch marker, I want a total of 4 single crochets. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is where we're going to make the wing. And to make the wing, you are going to chain. You're going to make a chain. And to make a chain, you're going to grab the yarn and pull it through that loop. So that's 1 chain. I want a total of 3 chains. So I have 1 chain. Again, I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it through that loop. So that's 2 chains. I want a total of 3. So I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it through that loop. So there are 3 chains now. In the second chain from the hook, so this is not a chain, this is just the yarn that was on our hook. This is the first chain. In the second chain from the hook, so this middle chain right here, you're going to insert your hook. So insert your hook into that chain. And now you're going to single crochet into that chain. So I'm going to grab the yarn, pull it through that chain. I'll have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to pull through those 2 loops. Now into the next chain, which is right here. You can see it right there. Going to do the same thing. So I'm going to insert my hook, grab the yarn, pull it through that chain, 2 loops on my hook, grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. All right, you can see the wing forming. Into our 4th stitch, so remember 1, 2, 3, 4. So into this 4th stitch right here, we're going to insert our hook, grab the yarn, pull it through so that we have 2 loops on our hook, but instead of grabbing the yarn and pulling through those 2 loops, we're going to do a slip stitch. We did a slip stitch in round 1 to close off the magic circle after we had done our 8 single crochets into round 1. If you remember how to do that, it's not by going under and grabbing the yarn. To make a slip stitch, you just grab this second loop and pull it through this first loop. So you're just going to grab this second loop with your hook and pull it through that first loop. All right, there is our wing. So we're going to continue in round 5 by finding our next stitch, which is right here, and going into it and continue with our single crochets. All right. So we're going to do a total of 8 single crochets until we get to the next wing. So there was our 1. We want 7 more. So 1, go into the next one, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet, 4 single crochet, 5 single crochet, 6 single crochet, 7 single crochet. And 8 single crochet. All right. So I'm just going to count to make sure I have 8 single crochets at the end of this wing. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now when we get to that 8th single crochet, we're going to make another wing. So remember, to make a wing, you chain 3. So to chain 3, we grab our yarn and pull it through the loop that's on our hook. So that's 1 chain. We want 2 more. So grab the yarn, pull it through the loop that is on our hook. That's 2 chain. We want 1 more. We're going to grab the yarn, pull it through that loop that is on our hook. That's 3 chains. Into the middle chain, so this one right here, we are going to insert our hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. We have 2 loops on our hook now. We're going to grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. We're going to find the first chain that we did, so the one that is closest to the body. So it's right here, it's the space right here. You're going to insert your hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. You have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. So we did 2 single crochets for the wing. We're going to find that 8th stitch, which is right here. And we're going to make a slip stitch into this stitch. So we insert our hook, grab the yarn, pull it through that 8th stitch. We have 2 loops on our hook. We're going to pull this second loop through this first loop. So I'm going to grab that loop and pull it through that first one. Now we are going to single crochet 4 until we get to the stitch marker. So here's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet, 4 single crochet. All right, it's moving along pretty good. I'll compare it to this duck just so we can see. Our duck is starting to take form, or starting to take flight with its little wings. For rounds 6 and 7, we are going to single crochet into each stitch. So we're going to have a total of 16 single crochets in both rounds 6 and round 7. So into the single crochet that has your stitch marker, you're going to make our first single crochet of round 6. So grab the yarn, pull it through, and pull through those 2 loops. That is our first single crochet of round 6. We want a total of 16 single crochets in round 6. So I'm going to find the next stitch, which is right here. Going to insert my hook, make our second single crochet. I'm going to find the next stitch, make our third single crochet. Going to find the next stitch, and this is where it gets a little tricky because you have to find the stitch that the wing is attached to, which is right here. I'm going to insert my hook, make 1 single crochet. All right, this is vital. You want your wing to stick out, so you don't want it to go behind the hook. If it goes behind the hook, it's going to get caught and stuck inside the body, and we don't want that. So grab your wing and pull it right here. I like to pull it with my thumb, and then I'm going to make sure that the hook goes behind it and that it goes into the next stitch, which will be right here, which is right where the wing attaches to the body. So right here is the next stitch that we want to go into. So I make sure that the wing is behind my hook, that my hook is in front of my wing, and then I go into that stitch where the wing attaches to the body, and I make a single crochet. So that way there's no holes, there's no gaps where our wing attaches to the body. All right, I'm going to continue making my single crochets until I get to the end of the round, which is indicated by the stitch marker, the end of the round. If you're having difficulty finding out what stitch you need to go into next, just take your needle and try to find it. So there's those 2 loops. I know that that's the next stitch that I need to go into. There's the next stitch I need to go into. There's the next stitch I need to go into. There's the next stitch I need to go into. And there's the next one. There's the next stitch that I need to go into. All right, so I'm to the second wing. And again, just like the first wing, I want to make sure that it's behind my hook, that my hook is in front of it. So see how the wing wants to, or should be close to the body, like that. And your hook should be further away. So it's kind of hard to see what stitch you need to go into, but you want to go into the stitch where the wing attaches to the body. So for me, that's this stitch right here. Then I'm going to continue single crocheting until I get to the end of the round. All right. Round 6 is complete. For round 7, we're simply single crocheting all around. So it'll be a total of 16 single crochets. So I'm going to make my first single crochet into the stitch that has the stitch marker in it. I'm going to remove that stitch marker and put it in that stitch that I just did. This is the first stitch of round 7. And I'm going to single crochet all around until I make it back to this first stitch. I'm going to be quiet right now and just visually show you. So if you want to pause, you can. All right. So I did 16 single crochets in round 7. And since I made it to the stitch marker, I stopped. Feel free at any time during this video to rewind or put it in slow-mo if you need to. You can see that this is the top half of our chick's body. In the next round, we are going to be crocheting the feet. And that will be a different technique, so I will go a little more slowly. But it should be looking like this right now. This is the inside of the chick, which we will fill with polyfill stuffing. And this is the outside. All right. We are going to move on to round 8. All right, we're going to start round 8. And for round 8, we are going to single crochet 4, and then we're going to make the feet. So I'm going to insert my hook and do the stitch that has my stitch marker and single crochet. Then I'm going to remove my stitch marker and place it into that first single crochet of round 8. Going to find the next stitch, which is right here, and single crochet. Then I'm going to find the stitch after that, which is right here, and single crochet. Then I'm going to find the next stitch, which should be our 4th stitch, and single crochet. We should have a total of 4 single crochets in round 8 by now. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. On this 5th stitch, we're going to insert our hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. You'll have 2 loops on your hook, but instead of grabbing the yarn and pulling through those 2 loops, we're going to color change. So grab your complementary color. In my case, it's this orange. Lay it on the top of your hook like this. Just lay it on the top of your hook and grab it with the hook. So I usually pinch it with my thumb and my middle finger like this. And I pull it through those 2 loops that are already on my hook. So I'm pulling my orange through the yellow loops that were on my hook. This now becomes the loop that is on my hook. All right, so we are going to be making a bobble stitch into the 6th stitch. And to do that, we're going to grab our orange yarn and wrap it around our hook. Then we are going to insert our hook into that 6th stitch. Grab the orange yarn, pull up a loop. You should have 3 loops on your hook. I'm going to grab the yarn and pull through 2 of those loops. You should have 2 loops on your hook. I'm going to wrap the yarn around my crochet hook, go back into that 6th stitch, insert my hook, grab the orange yarn, pull it through that stitch. I should have 4 loops on my hook. I'm going to grab the orange yarn and pull through 2 loops. You should have a total of 3 loops on your hook. Going to wrap the orange yarn around my crochet hook, then insert it back into that 6th stitch. Grab the yarn, pull it through. I should have a total of 5 loops on my hook. I'm going to grab the yarn and I'm going to pull through all 5 of those loops. That is what is known as a bobble stitch. Now I'm going to insert my hook into this next stitch, which would be stitch 7, and I'm going to color change again. So I'm going to let the orange yarn go, and I'm going to grab my yellow yarn, wrap it around my hook, pull it through that stitch. I should have 2 loops on my hook, so I should have an orange loop and a yellow loop. I'm going to grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. Now I'm going to go to the next stitch and just single crochet in yellow. I'm going to make a total of 3 single crochets until I get to the next foot. So that was our first one. So there's 1 single crochet. There's 2 single crochet. And this is our 3rd single crochet. But instead of finishing off this 3rd single crochet, I'm going to color change. So by the time you get to the 3rd single crochet, you're going to insert your hook, grab the yellow yarn, pull through. You should have 2 yellow loops on your hook. Then you're going to go back and grab the orange yarn, wrap it around your hook, and pull it through those 2 yellow loops so that the loop that is now on your hook is orange. So into the next stitch, so right here, you're going to wrap the orange yarn around your hook before you go into that stitch, and then go into that stitch, grab the yarn, pull it through. You should have 3 orange loops on your hook. Grab the yarn, pull through those 2 orange loops. You should still have 2 more orange loops on your hook. You're going to wrap the yarn around your hook, go back into that yellow stitch, grab the orange yarn, pull it through that yellow stitch. So you should have a total of 4 orange loops on your hook. Grab the yarn, pull through 2 orange loops. You should have a total of 3 orange loops on your hook. You're going to wrap the yarn around your hook, go back into that yellow stitch, insert the hook, grab the orange yarn, pull it through. You should have a total of 5 loops on your hook. Grab the orange yarn and pull through all those 5 loops. All right, so find the next stitch, insert the hook into that stitch, drop the orange yarn, grab the yellow yarn, wrap it around your hook, pull the yellow yarn through that stitch. You should have an orange loop and a yellow loop on your hook. Grab the yellow yarn and pull through both loops. Then you are going to single crochet until you reach the stitch marker. So I believe that is a total of 4 times. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4. So our first single crochet should go here. Here's 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3 single crochet, 4 single crochet. All right, we are almost done. So before we do our 9th and final round, I'm going to take my safety eyes and place them in my duck. So grab the eyes that you have and place them wherever you would like on your duck. I typically like placing mine between rows 4 and 5, but you could place them wherever you want. So I count the rows. Here's row 1, here's row 2, here's row 3, here's row 4, and here's row 5. So I place them in between rows 4 and 5. So in this line right here, this is the line that is in between rows 4 and rows 5. I'm going to place my safety eyes on this line. So I'm going to place them one right here, and I'm going to stick it in. I'm going to grab my safety eye and stick it in. Then I'm going to see where this eye would look best. but I'm staying on the same line. So I'm kind of gonna move it over. I'm kind of gonna move it over until it gets to a place where I like, which should be right there. I think that looks good. You can always just look at your chick and see if it looks good, but be sure to place your eyes on the same line. So I don't want, you know, one eye up here on this line and one eye down here on this other line. That would look lopsided. I want to make sure that my eyes are both placed on the same line. So again, I placed my eyes between rows 4 and 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I placed it on the line in between rows 4 and 5. Once you have your eyes in there, you're going to grab your backers, so these round little circles. You're going to flip your duck upside down, making sure that the eyes don't fall out. So sometimes I will hold them in place with my thumbs. And you're going to flip your duck inside out really quickly, like that. So you want to see the ends of the eyes sticking out. This is very important that you hold your eye with your thumb as you place this backing so it doesn't push the eye out. So I'm holding this eye with my thumb. I'm making sure it's supported with my thumb. Then I'm taking my backer and I'm pushing it in so that it clicks. Now this eye is secure. And I'm going to do the same thing with this eye. So again, it's very important you hold the front of the eye with your thumb and you place the backer on the back of the eye until it clicks in place. All right, we got our eyes. It's actually looking like a little plushie now. So for the 9th and final round, we are going to decrease. So to make a decrease stitch, you are going to go through the front loops of each stitch. So I'll show you what that means. Remember these V's from the beginning, the 2 loops? You're going to go through this front loop. So this one, this front loop, and this front loop. So here's stitch 1. You can see the 2 loops from stitch 1. Here's stitch 2. You can see the 2 loops from stitch 2. We don't want the 2 loops. We just want the first loop. So the loop that is closest to us. This is called the front loop. We're going to insert our hook into that front loop. The front loop only. Then we are going into the next front loop. Going to grab the yarn, pull it through both of those front loops. You'll have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. So that is a decrease stitch. That is our first decrease. I'm going to place my stitch marker into that first decrease. And just as we increased a total of 8 times, we are going to decrease a total of 8 times. So I'm going to do my next decrease stitch. So I'm going to find the front loops only of the next 2 stitches. So if it's hard to find those stitches, you could turn your work sideways or upside down, and you can see this is the front loop, this is the front loop, this is the back loop, back loop. So you want to go into the front loops only. So I like taking my stitch marker and identifying the front loops. Like I can even pull them out a little bit if it's easier to identify. So I find those front loops only. I insert my hook into that first front loop, and then I insert my hook into that second front loop. So I want the front loops of the next 2 stitches to be on my hook. Then I yarn over, pull through those 2 front loops. I should have 2 loops on my hook, and then I pull through those 2 loops. So that is my second decrease. Here's where it gets a bit tricky to find the front loop because we got to find the front loop of the foot. So here is the front loop of the next stitch, and here is the front loop of the foot. So you're going to be going into both of those front loops with your hook. So that is the first front loop. Here's the second front loop. You got 2 front loops on your hook. You want to grab the yarn and pull it through those 2 front loops. You should have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to grab the yarn and pull through those 2 loops. So I need to find the next 2 front loops. You can see it very clearly now. Here is our front loop. Here is our back loop. Here is our front loop. Here is our back loop. We want the first 2 front loops. So front loop 1 and front loop 2. We're going to insert our yarn into front loop 1, insert our yarn into front loop 2, and I just said yarn. That was wrong. I meant hook. Sorry. Let me do that again without the confusion. I got a little too into it right there. We're going to insert our hook into front loop 1 and insert our hook into front loop 2. So you have front loop 1 and front loop 2 on your hook. Then you're going to grab the yarn and pull it through front loops 2 and 1. So you should have 2 loops on your hook. Grab the yarn, pull through those 2 loops. Then you're going to find the next 2 front loops of the next 2 stitches. So here's front loop 1. Here's front loop 2. You're going to insert your hook into front loop 1 and insert your hook into front loop 2. Grab the yarn, pull through front loops 1 and 2. You have 2 loops on your hook. Grab the yarn, pull through those 2 loops. All right, I think we only have 3 more decreases to go. So you're going to find the front loop of the next stitch, which might be a little hard. It is a little tricky to see, but I see this is the front loop, this is the back loop. I'm going to insert my hook into that front loop. Front loop 1, I'm going to insert my hook into front loop 2. So insert your hook into front loops 1 and 2. Grab the yarn, pull through front loops 1 and 2. You have 2 loops on your hook. Grab the yarn, pull through those 2 loops. All right, I'm going to find front loops 1, front loop 1, front loop 2. Going to insert my hook into front loop 1 and front loop 2. So front loops 1 and 2 are on my hook. I'm going to grab the yarn and pull through both of those front loops. I have 2 loops on my hook. Grab the yarn, pull through those 2 loops. If you made a mistake along, so the way, it's okay. If you made it so that you're near this stitch marker and you have a single crochet like I do, I don't have 2 more front loops. I must have made a mistake along the way. That is perfectly fine. All you have to do is insert your hook into that loop and single crochet. So I single crocheted. Now our chick is really taking its form. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fasten off, which means I'm going to cut the yarn. So with your scissors, you are going to cut the yarn and leave a long yarn tail. So I'm making sure that I'm leaving a long yarn tail that I could sew up the duck with. So I'm making sure it's at least 5 inches long, and then I'm cutting it. Then I'm going to chain 1. So to chain 1, I'm going to make my yarn go underneath my hook and pull it through the loop that was on my hook. And I'm going to let go of the yarn and just pull my hook up like that. And that is how we fasten off our plushie. So our plushie is now fastened off. All right, we only have a few more steps left. The next thing we're gonna do is cut this orange yarn, and we're gonna leave a long yarn tail for doing the details of the beak. So just like this yellow one, we want it to be about 5 inches long, or maybe even a little more. Anywhere from 5 to 10 inches would be fine. Mine's roughly around 7 inches. So I just cut it off, And now I'm going to be doing the details of the beak with my yarn needle. So I thread the needle, and then I go into the chick's body with this, and I like to insert the needle between rounds 4 and 5. So on that line that I place the eyes, I am placing this beak. So I pull it through that line, and then I count a couple stitches. I usually do 3 stitches over. So there's 1 stitch, 2 stitch. This is the 3rd stitch. So I'm going to go into this hole. And then I'm going to be pulling this needle through the hole that I originally came up in. So I originally came up this hole. As I went through the body, I came up in this stitch. I'm going to put it into this 3rd stitch away from that stitch, but also push it back into that stitch. So just like that. And I'm going to do that probably 2 or 3 times. If your yarn comes out like mine just did, don't worry, you could just rethread it. So that's my 2nd time. I'm going to do it once more, then my beak will be complete. All right, so to fasten this off, I just go back into that first hole that I pulled my yarn through, and I pull it all the way through. Then I'm going to tuck that tail into the chick's body, just like that. And oh my goodness, look at him, he's very cute now. This is where our polyfill stuffing comes in. We're going to want to grab that stuffing and stuff the chick. So we can take out our stitch marker. We're not going to need that anymore. And we can stuff the chick. I usually stuff by just pushing the stuffing in with my fingers. If you are having a hard time pushing the stuffing in, you are always welcome to use a stick or the end of the hook to push it in. Like that, if you want. It is up to you how much you want to stuff your duck. I recommend stuffing it very firmly, so stuffing a lot of stuffing into the duck. But if you want your duck to be squishy, just do a little bit of stuffing. It's totally up to your preference. I just like making mine very sturdy, so I put quite a bit of stuffing in there. And you could tell that it's still a little squishy, but it's a lot thicker. Okay, so this is great. We are almost done. Our last and final step is to just sew up the bottom of this hole. And just like we did those decrease rounds in the last round that we did, by going into the front loop only. So again, I'm going to look for the front loop. We are going to be inserting our needle underneath the front loops only. So I could see the back loops back here and the front loop right here. So I'm going to go into that first front loop and pull the yarn all the way through that first front loop. I'm going to be doing this a total of 8 times. So there's 1 front loop. This is the 2nd front loop. The 3rd front loop. The 4th front loop. It's kind of hard to see, so I always go in or zoom in sometimes just to see. So that's the 4th front loop. The 5th front loop. The 6th front loop. The 7th front loop. The 8th front loop. So this is my final front loop, and I'm sticking my needle underneath that front loop. And then I'm going to pull this yarn tight, and it's going to close up that hole. All right, so I'm going to insert my needle with the yarn attached to it back into the chick's body and push it all the way through to the top of the head like this. And then I'm going to grab my scissors and cut that yarn. And there you have your completed chick. Well, thank you very much. I hope that you enjoyed making your cute little chick. If you have leftover yarn, you can make another one. I will be putting the pattern at the end of the video, the written pattern, if you would like to see. I'll just place that here now, and you could read that over. There are plenty of YouTube tutorials and information online if you need to review how to make the basic single crochets. But just remember that when you're crocheting amigurumi or plushies, that they are usually made with single crochets in many rounds. That's what we did. We did a bunch of single crochets in many rounds. We did a few increased stitches and a few decreased stitches. We did a bobble stitch, and we chained to make the wings. But I hope that you enjoyed this and that you can make plenty of little ducks. Goodbye!